Just glad to be here. I'm going to let everybody introduce themselves and we'll get started.
Yeah. Hi, I'm Jordan Johnson. I am a commercial lender at Legacy Bank. I primarily focus in commercial real estate, Springfield area, but we kind of our regions anywhere from Kansas City to west over or east to Mountain Grove. But yeah, we do a lot of commercial real estate in the Springfield area. So I've been doing that for about 2 years, lending. And prior to that, I was an analyst, so I was doing the underwriting side of things. So yeah, excited to answer any questions or anything you guys may have.
I'll say something real quick. I do a lot of banking with Legacy, so I was happy that they stepped up to come and just kind of answer questions, and maybe you guys can build a relationship with Jordan and he can answer questions. They do great, really, really great work there with their financing, but also like on the personal side, they take really good care of everything. And I've been very happy. I'm a big fan. I'm actually trying to get a part-time job there, but I don't know, for whatever reason, they're not hiring me, but Amy's turn.
Because you have to show up. You might be able to work. You might be able to work from your truck.
Hey guys, I'm Amy Molea-Koppitz. For those of you that don't know me already, I've only been at Keller Williams maybe 3 years, but in the industry since 2010, and actually got into real estate investing prior to becoming a realtor, which is really what kind of ignited my desire to be a realtor. So my history is in banking and finance. And so any questions you guys have about your personal financial statement, or if you have further questions after visiting with the lender today and asking questions, feel free to reach out to me. I'm happy to visit with any of you.
Hey guys, Josh Keatts, realtor here, obviously with Litton Keatts Real Estate. Yeah, excited to be on the committee with Amy this year. I know we've kind of talked to most of you guys. We did the introductions, but been a real estate agent with Keller Williams since February of 2018. Built a team. We're upstairs, got a couple offices. So if you guys ever have questions, feel free to come up anytime. I'm trying to think of what else here. We focus a lot with our team on investing, on wealth building. So I was super excited to get to partner with Amy on this committee. I think, so we set our goals as a team, personal goals for each individual. I think of our 10 people who started with us at the beginning of the year, I think 6 or 7 of them plan on buying their first investment property this year. So it was a super, exciting, venture for us to go down and help them do that. One of our agents, I've told the story all the time, but one of the guys on our team, he's one of our ISA OSAs. He's our lead ISA OSA. Went from making about 20 grand 2 or 3 years ago, and he has his third investment property that he just purchased and is getting ready to flip it. So it's kind of cool to see the change in a very short time that somebody can have, and you don't have to have an absorbent amount of money to do that. It's a game that anybody can play in. A lot of fun.
One thing I'll mention, we're going to talk today a lot about analyzing deals, how to recognize a good deal, and then putting financing in place in advance so that when you do recognize that good deal, you have the ability to jump on it. But just know that the numbers we're going to share with you are not hard and fast rules. Everyone here gets to decide what's a good deal for them based on what their objectives are. So if some people want to buy for appreciation and some people want to buy for cash flow. So different people will think different things are good deals, and don't let anything that we're saying today cloud your vision. If you have something clear in your head of what you're looking at accomplishing, if you don't care about immediate cash flow, but you're looking at something that's going to build or be paid off in 15 to 30 years, your objective is going to be different from somebody who's nearing retirement and they want cash flow right now so that they can exit the job force. So that's just a little side point.
And one point that Zach makes all the time too is if you're struggling to figure out the financing, or if you've talked to a lender and it's just not something that is going to happen right away, grab one of the 3 of us. There's a bunch of other agents in the office that are more than happy to partner with you. Finding the deal right now is one of the hardest parts. So if you found a deal and you know it's a deal, come talk to us. Dan's first deal, that was, just a knockdown. I feel like anybody could see it. Dan was struggling with it just because it was his first deal, convincing himself to do it. He came up into our office and we basically said, it's either you or us, because we know about it now. So either you go buy it or we do, or we'll partner with you. And he very quickly realized that, you know, if we are willing to put our money on it, that it was a good deal as well. So if you guys find a deal or if you have any questions on it, ask anytime. We're always available for you.
Started on recognizing, like, how do we analyze a deal? What does that
Sure.
look like? Okay.
Yeah.
Things to say?
Sure. So Amy touched on it. There's a lot of different ways. There's a lot of different ways to invest in real estate. You know, that's my primary focus. Like, I'm not talking about the stock market today or anything like that, because I don't totally understand it. So for me, it's real estate. Does anybody out here, who invests in real estate currently? Well, Misty. Oh, hey, Doug. I didn't see you sneak in late back there. What's up? Just kidding. Who has long-term rentals? Okay. Okay. So Misty, can you tell us a little bit about what do you look for? I mean, I'm going to share kind of how I do it and what I do, but what's your thoughts on investing and what do you look for?
I love my husband and me and him both. Bring out the baby chicks, my daughter says. Cheap, 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 cheap. So that's what we're looking for. Most of ours are north side, west side. They're lower priced, but we have constant tenants. Our longest has been 6 years in one house. So
can I ask you what, so you said cheap. What's your thought process behind that?
Everybody needs to live somewhere and they need quality housing. So he enjoys working on the properties, fixing them up and making them look nice. So it gives him something to do. And then at the end, we have a nice house. Yeah.
So is it, do you feel like the lower price is sort of the niche you've carved out and you enjoy it, you kind of understand it, and that's what you're going to stick with?
It's where we started at.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we've progressed a little bit, moved up in price. We bought one that almost needed all redone.
Yeah.
And so it was a little bit higher price, but we can turn around and rent it for a higher price as well.
Right. Do you guys flip?
No.
No? Just buy and hold? How many do you guys have?
8 right now.
8? Nice. Why do you guys hold everything? How come you don't just sell it and make some money?
Because he's worked on them and they're his babies.
Yes. So he's like emotionally attached to them?
We have 9 kids. He has 8 houses.
Oh.
So you don't nurture
Wow.
it and then let it go.
Yeah, right.
So it's an emotional attachment. He's worked on them and poured everything into it.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Luckily, it's I mean, I flip and I hold, but really from a tax perspective and a cash flow, I mean, it makes a lot of sense to just keep them. So, usually when you're emotionally attached to something, you're making the wrong decision, but it sounds like you guys are making a pretty good decision holding on to them. So yeah, good. Who else owns some rentals or who else flips? Can you tell us a little bit about what you've got going on? Yeah. Can you tell us what you've done? Just to kind of, and I don't want to stand up there and talk all about ourselves and what we do. I mean, I think it's important you guys share what you're already doing and we can build on that. So
So recently we have, obviously like a lot of people, I work for the Adam Grady team and we have a lot of buyers. We have a lot of investors too. We sent out some flyers and some cards and we found a past client who had a bunch of rentals. The ones I have bought, I've all bought from him. I only have 2. But they were good deals for me. I went to Evangel. I have a lot of connections around Evangel and I found 2 that are right there. I got them both under 75,000 and I've only been doing this a couple years. I used to be a teacher. So, I buy pretty cheap too. The current house I'm living in now, I'll rent out within the next year and buy a bigger forever house. And that will be more. I'll probably rent that out for about $1,400. But as far as a strategy, I just, to be honest, I'm probably spoiled and I just rely on Adam. Most of the time I call him and say, does this make sense? Would you do this if you were a 32-year-old Colton Mose who just got started? But yeah, I'm pretty excited. I just went under contract on one this week. I actually called Josh to see what they had coming up, but I found a different one. And the reason being because I have a really good friend I played high school football with. His landlord died and kicked him out of the house. He has 2 kids. They had nowhere to go. I wasn't going to make a bad financial decision, but I told him, hey, if you'll commit to me for a couple years, I trust you. And if I find something, I promise I'm going to work hard for you and I will pull the trigger for you. And that's been my last one. That's why I pulled the trigger on the last one. But I'm still kind of in the smaller price game too, as well. So, and holding, I have not flipped.
Does anybody own real estate that's like over, let's say, like a single family or something that rents for like $1,500 a month? Anybody? Yeah. Yeah. Okay. I'm just curious. Speaking of investment properties, did everyone know Rachel bought her first duplex? She's been talking about it for 2 years, I think. So congratulations. Yeah, maybe 5. I don't know, but she did do it, and so we're all happy for her. So
since we're talking about single families, maybe Jordan would like to weigh in for us and just explain to people who have never bought a single family as an investment rental before, what percentage are they looking at putting down? How many can they have in their portfolio before they have to go commercial? What does that look like financing wise?
Financing on a single family in Springfield. So pre-COVID, we would do like 15% cash down would probably get it done for a credit-worthy person. But anymore, we're looking at 20% on basically everything. You could probably attest to that. You probably saw some 15% stuff, and now we've gotten into 20. Some stuff will ask for 25 if it's older, depending on the area. As far as the financing goes, sorry, what was your other question? Just cash down?
Like sort of what sort of interest rate could they expect to pay? So versus, we're used to buying our own property and we know what that interest rate looks like. How much more is the rate?
Yeah, so I think something with when people buy their first investment properties that they get confused with is that on a commercial deal, we don't offer a really long-term fixed. It's going to be more like 5 years on 90% of our deals are 5-year fixed. Right now, rates are ranging from high 3s for someone that's, solid, a solid deal to, mid 4s. And, with also on commercial, a lot of what we do is very project specific. So if you, and once again, Zach probably knows this game too. If you have multiple projects, a lot of the times we may price every project you do slightly different. We just have to price our risk, and we price, if you're buying a brand new 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom in South Springfield, the rate on that's probably going to be a little bit lower than if you're going to buy in North Springfield. So that's something that, we see people tend to get frustrated with us, and that's just kind of part of it. And then that could go the same on down payment. A down payment on, a new renovated property is probably going to be a little bit lower. We may ask for only 15%. Probably with where we're at in the economy right now, probably 20%. Sorry, does that answer your question?
Yeah. So what you do is the commercial side of things.
Yep.
And so with commercial, you're going to be fixed for a certain number of years, and then it'll turn into a variable, or you could refinance it.
So so normally if we fix your loan for 5 years, you're going to look at, you'll pay the principal and interest at those terms that we provide you up front for 5 years. At the end of the 5 years, the bank then takes a look at your property again, and we say, are they paying on time? We'll, ask for some updated financials for you normally. And then we'll either renew the loan for you, which is what we do 99% of times. We just we adjust your rate to what market is at that time. Or at that point, you can refinance as well. And you could take it to another bank, or, you have options at that time to kind of get out there and see what else other financing options are available. But most of the time we're going to match whatever is out there in the market, and we're just going to price you accordingly. And normally just easier to keep yourself in-house at the end of the 5 years, because, you already have your loan with us. We just work with you and kind of work through that. So. Okay.
So I'm going to give you a deal.
Sure.
And you tell me what your bank would do with it, with a good creditworthy borrower who has some money to put down. And you tell me how much we put down, what that looks like.
Okay.
So it's a north side house.
Yeah.
There's a tree through the roof right now, and it's full of hoarders, hypothetically.
There's a tree through the roof and it's full of hoarders.
Yes.
Oh, this is scary. Okay.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
And someone may have an option to purchase on it.
Yeah.
And my purchase might be around $36,000.
Okay.
It is a 1,300 square foot house, and it's got an attached garage, and it has a basement, but it's not a livable basement.
Is this your
storage
first? This is your first rental?
No.
Okay.
So this would be my fourth flip.
Okay.
So
You have a relationship with us already?
no, and
Why not?
I need to. I know.
Okay.
So asking for a friend, and I think it needs about 60 grand worth of work.
Yeah.
So what am I looking at putting down on that deal?
Yeah, so that's a really good question. I'm glad you gave us that scenario. Because a lot of people do ask about financing, like renovations, and that is something we do at Legacy. We so what we would do is, you said 60 in reno and 36 purchase price.
Mhm.
So you're talking about $96,000. What we would do is we'd have you put 20% down on the $96,000.
Yep.
So you'd be looking at like 18 or 19 grand. I don't know the math on that, but so you'd put 20% down on that, and we would give you probably 6 to 12 months, depending on how long you thought it would take to renovate it, of like an interest only period.
Mhm.
So you would basically submit draws, and we do those on a draw basis. If you're going to fund renovations, you give us an invoice, we give you the cash to pay for the invoice. And we would give you like a 12-month draw period, interest only. So it gives you time to renovate, complete the property, find a tenant, get it rented, build up some, a little bit of cash, in your operating account before you have a full payment due.
Right.
So that's the scenario that we would probably do with that, I think.
Now let's say, for instance, you do that and then you decide, okay, now I want to refinance it.
Yeah.
And get an 80% loan to value loan
Sure.
on the new value of the property.
Yeah. And I should have mentioned this. So what we would do is we would do a 5-year term on that.
Okay.
Maybe 6, but we would do a 12-month interest only period, a draw period. And at the end of the whatever we decide, 6 or 12 months, we would automatically have it convert into a principal and interest payment,
Mm-hmm.
25-year amortization. So you don't have to touch it for 5 years.
Nice.
So it's easy. It's easy and clean that way, I think.
Mhm.
And I do normally I just go ahead. Some people will say they only want interest only for 6 months. I pretty much always do 12 months with everyone, because you don't know how long it's going to take you once you get in there. Zach's seen some crazy stuff, I think. I mean, sometimes you get in there and it takes longer. Maybe it costs a little bit more money. We have to revisit the loan.
There's no plywood available.
Yeah, there's no wood available. Lumber costs go up 50%. You never
Mhm.
know what's coming. So I usually do 12 months to give you time to figure it all out. Normally you can have it sorted out and have a tenant in there by the end of 12 months. And then, you don't have to worry about, a conversion or anything, refinancing, paying any other closing costs, because it's already done and allocated up front. So,
Mhm.
Yep.
And would you say that once somebody gets in a rhythm of doing things with your bank,
Yeah.
and they're a repeat customer, and they, it's just going to be that much easier to lend for them on the next deal?
oh, absolutely. Yeah. It's a lot easier when, one, we already have your financials. We know your borrowing history. We know about you. It's tougher when someone comes to us as a first time investor. Even if you are creditworthy, we don't know, a lot of, especially if you're referred to us a lot of the time, we feel better about that. But if we don't know much about you, it's like, this person's buying their first rental. This is a big rehab. That's something that we would be a little more cautious on. We may ask for 25%. So yeah. And I'm glad you gave me this specific scenario, because like I said earlier, everything is very project specific in what we do. If that same person came to us and said, I want to buy a clean 3.2, we'd be like 20% down, your rate's going to be better, and I will say on a renovation deal, your rate's usually going to be a tick higher depending on who you are too.
Maybe like 4.5.
Yeah, I hate saying rates because they're so,
Right.
it's so person specific, project specific.
Yeah. But just to give people a gauge, and
I'd say if that person was a 4% borrower on a clean deal, on a big renovation, they might be at a 4.25.
Mhm.
So we're not talking it's too high. Did you have a question?
Yeah, no, I just did my
Yeah.
first deal. I was just gonna test the
sweet.
Legacy. I just
Yeah.
did. We're still in the process.
Yeah.
And it was a rehab loan. It's going to be our personal house, but even then, it was a huge reno. Our reno was like 75% of our purchase price as well. So
Yeah.
we bought for like 200, and our reno is like 165. So it was a big deal. And being difficult for your first deal, it was still very easy to work with. The process is streamlined. They know what they're doing when it comes to the reno loans and the rehab stuff. Super simple to work with. They do a great job. So I just can't attest to Legacy more.
Thanks, Josh. Appreciate that. And
Doug doesn't need a mic.
He didn't, no mic needed.
It's for the Zoom. Yeah, it's for the people zooming in.
Hey, on Amy's example,
Mhm.
bought for 3660 in Reno,
Yeah.
but when it's done, it's 150.
Yeah.
Is that loan 80% on the 150, 80% on the 96? Can you, when it's done, can you have it reappraised and look at that?
You can, and that's where there's what some banks call seasoning period, where at Legacy we don't have a set seasoning period. So if you do the Renault and you think it's worth 150 at the end of that, but your loan's 70-ish thousand because you put the 20-ish $1,000 down the 96, we would probably want to see it stabilized and rented for a little bit, and then we can revisit it. Because I'm guessing you'd want to refi and pull some cash out and use towards your next project.
Mhm.
So we can't, once again, that's with us, that's project specific as well, because a lot of the bigger banks in town will say, no, we have a 18-month seasoning period before we'll revisit your loan at all. We want to see, timely payments and equity build up. And if there's a dip in real estate, we don't want to be just giving you cash out on it right away. Legacy is a little bit different because we're very flexible on that stuff. We don't have a set seasoning period, so I can't give you an exact answer, but once again, it's project specific. And if you felt like you had true equity and we felt good about it too, we would probably do the cash out refi for you.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So that is, if you listen to like Bigger Pockets or you're listening to these podcasts, that's called the Bur Method. When you're hearing people say Bur, that is you buy, you renovate, rent it out, refinance it, and then you get your cash back out and you repeat it.
Yeah.
So you always have working capital that is continually growing. And now you've got a performing asset with somebody else paying off that investment property for you. You're making some cash flow on it and you got all your cash that you put in back out to redo a new project. So that's the Bur Method. When you hear them talking about it, that's what they're referring to.
So we're kind of like talking about how you can finance things and different ways of doing it. And so it got me kind of thinking like, so we're talking about wealth. So obviously we feel like investing in real estate is a huge, mega wealthy people, they have real estate in their portfolio. So it's kind of a no-brainer. But what I would like to do maybe on the board is just give you an example of a deal and then show you how one deal turns into 2 and then 3. And then eventually you get to where, can I just show you? Because I feel like we can talk about like, let's do this deal, let's do that deal, but okay, yeah, great. Because I'm not good at math. I feel like you are. So, so I just want to get like really granular, what is it called? Granular? Yes.
Granular.
So, because this is how I did it, and it's so simple. And I think people overcomplicate it, but it is so simple because I can understand it. So just trust me, just watch. So I don't do anything complicated. I buy houses, I buy duplexes. I basically buy anything that's a good deal, either through, I can buy it, resell it, make a good chunk of money that I can then either pay off debt or reinvest it or save it. Or I buy it because I can create some equity and then also collect a little cash flow every month to put in my pocket or save it or pay off debt, right? So that's why I do it. So I recently bought a house. Sorry, I'm really hot. I bought a house recently for $45,000. It's over by Bass Pro. I think the numbers are gonna basically be right. I just can't remember exactly, but they're gonna be close. So I buy it for 45, okay? I see this house and I think to myself, okay, it's by Bass Pro. It's a 3-bedroom, 1 bath, 1 car garage. And so I'm thinking, that's pretty good. 1,150 square feet. Now it's a crappy house. Like it's going to need some work, right? So I figure I'm going to put like maybe 30, 40 grand in. I don't really think too much about like exactly. I keep it real basic. And then I think, well, if I have 40 in it, I have 85 total. it's gonna work. Yeah, basically. I don't. Yeah, I mean, I don't finance it, so I don't really have a whole lot other than. Yeah, but we're using my reno was less than that. So let's just say that if you were doing it, you would have 40 with your holding costs and all of that. So when I say 40, I mean what I paid for my roof, my windows, my contractors, you know, if I had a payment that would have covered it. Okay. Is everybody with me? All right. So I finish. Yep. And so I have 85,000 in the house. And I think to myself, okay, what should I do with it? Because right now I could sell the house for maybe 130 because the market's crazy. Actually, probably more. I don't sell real estate hardly at all. So I'm kind of out of touch with what things are. Yeah. So I'm not very good at pricing. I'm not good at pricing anymore. I can tell you that because I don't sell enough. I'm not in it. But I do know I know when it's low enough for me to buy it. I just don't know what they're selling for. So I think to myself, okay, I could sell that for 130, let's say, net after I pay, you know, you to sell it. So I would make like, what is that? 45,000. Okay. So that's good. When I started, I probably would have just sold it because at the time we had, you know, me and my wife, we started investing 10 years ago. We had some college loans that she had. I didn't go to college, but she did. We had like, you know, her car was partially paid off, right? So we had things that we needed to pay off. So I probably would have sold it just to get that all knocked out. That was my goal initially, debt-free, other than my mortgage. So, but fast forward a little bit, right? I look at that because everybody here is going to be a different spot. Like you may be in a spot where you need to like save up some cash, you know, for reserves, or maybe you got some debt that's kind of hanging over your head that you want to get gone, or maybe you don't and you just want to like go on a trip, you know, or whatever it is. Okay, we're all in different spots, so you have to look at that and go, okay, today what would I do with that? What did I do with it? I didn't sell it because I thought, well, I don't necessarily need the cash, right? And if I sell it and I make 45,000, I'm going to pay, you know, 35% or so to Uncle Sam for capital gains. So that's another 5, 10, 15,000 or so. So I'm going to keep 30 grand in my pocket. And at this stage, it's like, if you have a nest egg and you don't really need that cash, why would you want to give 15,000 to the government, right? Makes no sense. So I decided I'm going to hold it. Well, why would I hold it? I'll tell you, because I rented it for $11.50. $11.50? Yeah, or no, I didn't. $9.50. Should have rented it for $11.50. I don't even know rents that well. They're going up so fast. I'm seriously out of touch with, you know, most of my stuff's probably under rented, but it's okay because it still cash flows. So I rent it for $9.50. I think my mortgage was around 44. I think it was $475. So I do have a property manager. Okay. So with my property manager and my expenses, so I use 10%. Yeah, you could do that. Yeah, just say 15%. So 15% would cover my property manager if it's vacant, something breaks, you know, whatever. Even though the house is like brand new, so I really shouldn't have a whole lot of holding costs, or a whole lot of expenses, repair expenses. Okay, and so the difference is approximately $325, something like that, which I'm sure you guys are like, well, that's not that great. It's really not that much. It's like a cell phone bill, you know, for a lot of us. Okay, so it's really not that exciting, and I understand that. What's that? Okay, so right, so multiply it times. Okay, Rachel, she just bought a duplex. She's still here? Yeah, there she is. So, okay, multiply that times, let's say just 2, because she's got 2 doors. It's $665. Yep. okay, now we're getting somewhere, right? Like, it's like, okay, that's adding up. That doesn't sound too bad. I didn't make 665. I made 332 because it's one house. But the nice thing is I get basically $332 every month as long as I can keep somebody in there, which is no problem. It's easy. As long as I personally manage my money properly, like as long as Zach doesn't get out of control and like use the money and spend it here and there and run out of money, right? As long as I don't mismanage my personal finances, I'm just going to get $332.50 a month. Well, some of you are probably thinking, well, I'd rather have the 30 grand. Okay. I get that. But would you rather have 30 grand once or $332.50 forever? You know, or however long you want to keep it, right?
Once it's paid off.
That's right. And I don't want to like go on, but the $332.50 is basically tax-free because when you own real estate, you get depreciation and I'm not going to go into all that, but just trust me, it's basically tax-free, right? Which is a lot better than, 20, 30, whatever percent. Okay. And it's the golden goose that keeps laying the golden egg, right? So that's the way I think about it. So early on, I did this so that I could get myself into a position to have some reserves, pay down our debt, have some cash so that I can like get that 15% to put down. Because early on I had to put 15% down on everything, right? So I was working my ass off here, selling tons of real estate. I mean, going crazy, trying to make as much as I could, right? But then over time that changed because I had some reserves. We paid our debt down. I started to understand how it all works a little bit better. And so I shifted into this method here, right? Because I thought, okay, let's see how this goes. Well, you keep doing that and you basically just multiply. If you do it 10 times, you're making $3,300 a month, which when you start getting up into that and you're not having to do that much to get it versus selling real estate, which you have to do a lot all the time and it never stops. It doesn't hurt to start thinking about backup plans. You don't have to give up selling real estate, because you need an income to get the financing, right? But you can do two things at once. You can sell a ton of real estate, pay your debt off, get yourself in a good spot, and then just start looking for a deal like Josh did. He's in the business just like all of us. You kind of just start looking for something that seems like it's a better deal than everything you're seeing and start getting curious about it, and you can call a guy that buys homes. I'll take it. I'll do it. But think about yourself first. Like, should this be me buying it? Would this work for me? Can I do it? How can I do it? Can I call Josh and get some advice, or Amy or Zach, get their opinion, right? Just start thinking differently. Like, instead of thinking about who can I find to buy this great deal, it's Gary Keller says, it's like, you should be thinking about yourself first, and whether you flip it and make a bunch of cash or you go the slow, steady route, either way, you're taking, how many deals do you have to do to make like 30 grand? I guess you could do one or whatever, but you get what I'm saying. You keep doing your deals, but then you're also doing these kind of deals and it adds up. And I say, go that route because that's the less sexy route, but you'll thank yourself later. Misty knows she's doing this. She knows what I'm talking about.
So in the beginning, coming up with the 20% down might feel like I don't have that kind of cash laying around. But with property prices going up, if you are a homeowner, I guarantee you have access to that cash in the equity in your house. So my recommendation to everybody is see about getting a home equity line of credit in place on your primary residence. They'll lend you up to 80% loan to value on your property. It's a cheap loan to put into place. Some lenders will do it just for the cost of the appraisal. There's not like points and fees involved. So get one of those in place, because if you come across a good deal, then you're not waiting to make sure that you can get that in place. Then you've got your down payment for your first one. And then maybe after your first one, maybe you do have to sell the first one to pay off some cash, pay off some debt, and have a nest egg in your pocket in order to be able to do that without tapping into your home's equity for the next one, right? But most people do have, if you own a house and you've lived in there any length of time, most of you have got some equity in your house. You do have some money to play with that you didn't even realize.
My suggestion is don't worry about the money. Just focus on finding a good deal. Because if you can find a good deal and you can call Josh, you can call me, you can call Amy, you can call the bank. Jordan will help you. Like, you can get the money. It's really not a problem. I used to worry a lot about it in the beginning. And now I just find the deals and I'm like, I'll get the money. It'll happen. It's just not a problem. So don't even you're right. Like, there's so many ways to get it. So don't trip over that right off the bat.
To
So,
Zach's point,
I'm gonna
create the
take this back
relationship.
to Bernie. Go ahead.
Create the relationship with the people that Zach mentioned, lenders that you trust, or other agents that you would consider partnering with. Because if you need to come up with that money, it's there for you. You just have to have that relationship. Amy mentioned earlier that having that relationship with the bank before you find the deal is great, but you don't have to have everything in line, because to Jordan's point, it's all going to be deal specific. It's all home and project specific. If you think it's a deal, they'll think it's a deal too. Well, if you're right, at least if you know how to analyze a deal and it's a deal, they will make sure to take care of you guys. But just build those relationships with other agents and other investors.
I'm in the back. He can't see me on the camera, but I'm with Birdie. And Birdie is a great example of someone that we've been working together for how many years? 5? 5 years. And doesn't feel like that long. And so Birdie sells real estate. Yeah. So she has sort of, let's see, your first deal you did was last year, right? Mm-hmm. Okay. So she bought a house on the east side of Springfield, and I just wanted to sort of ask her a few questions. She was telling me on the mic, I don't want to talk, don't go away, but I'm gonna kind of make her. So she started thinking differently, right? She's selling real estate, making plenty of money. But she started thinking differently. Can you tell us why you bought your first property and just a little bit about why you did it and just your thought process?
I wanted to follow Zach's example, honestly. I wanted other avenues of revenue. So I bought the property thinking I would rehab it and rent it. But I did a really good job on the rehab that it sold really fast. So I wanted to do another one. Zach gets all the deals, so it took me a while to find one. I know, but anyway, I'm doing it again. I'm not in the keeping it to rent out phase just yet. I'm just buying them, renovating them, and selling them because of where the market's at right now. So it was a lot of fun. The first one took me a long time because I didn't really know what I was doing, but I just went with it and learned a lot in the process. I would say it took about 8 months. But I also had a half an acre of bamboo that I had to get rid of. The second one is less than 90 days. And the third one is going to be about 60. So from purchase time, rehab to resale is kind of where I'm at right now.
How much did you make on your first one?
About 60,000 after everything.
That doesn't suck.
No.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So, yeah. So, yeah. Oh, there's yep. Oh, Doug.
So on the other side, my first one I broke even on because I was going to make $9,000 and the appraisal came in 9,000 short. So I broke exactly even. So
Which is a win. You didn't lose.
it is. I mean, and I learned so much that I probably spent 20,000 that I shouldn't have. It took longer than it should have. But like Bertie was saying, hers are getting shorter. You learn as you go. So don't think $60,000 on your first one is very, very unusual. then she did a great job. Don't think that if you make $5,000 on your first one, oh, this is horrible, I'm not going to do this again. You get better as you go.
Totally agree. So I don't know. I just thought about Birdie and her deal and thought it'd be good to share. You guys can go. I don't know. Okay.
So when you're factoring your budget for rehab, and I bet Birdie will attest to this too, add an extra 15-20% on there at least for contingency. So whatever you think it's going to cost you, plan on 20% more, because we have rising material costs, inavailability of subs. If you have the property takes longer because people aren't available to finish up stuff for you, your holding costs are going to increase. So just know, I mean, on my last one, I went over budget by about 30 grand. So I still made a profit. It was good. I think I made 35 or 40. The one on Lark. Yeah. 1862 East Lark was the last big project that I had. And I ended up, thought it was going to take 4 or 5 months. And I ended up having it for about a year, maybe a couple months over a year. Just because inavailability of people and materials, and then the granite people cut the granite in the wrong place. And
Yeah, it's a great idea to build that in, like she said, because it costs money to come back to us to rework the loan. And honestly, we don't want to have to do that. We want you to be in place and have the money you need to finish the project in the time that we allocated. So it is a great point there to build that in up front. So yeah.
And then when you're factoring your cash flow, if you're going to buy and hold a property, even if you plan on managing it yourself, just factor in that management cost, because you might not always want to manage it yourself. So you don't want to be so strapped every month where you're barely breaking even on it, that if something changed in your life and you no longer have the ability to manage it, that you don't have that cushion there. So that's just a thought.
Rentals, and every time renter moved out, we had to redo the whole house. Do you factor that in your cost? No?
I don't. I really don't, but so initially my goal, like when I bought number one, it was, how many rentals did you have? 2. Okay. I can tell you it's much harder when you have a few rentals than when you have a lot of rentals. There's challenges both ways, but when you have 50 rentals and you're making whatever you're making, 10 grand a month after all your expenses, it's a lot easier to absorb 1 month where you have to spend $3,500 on somebody moving out. So initially when you have 1 or 2, it seems like it was a lot harder because you're only making $200 or $300 per house per month. So, it takes a while to get that account built up, So, you go a year of making $600 a month and you make $7,200, but then you've got an air conditioner that goes out and a make ready that's a little worse than usual. It wipes you out. Is that where you're kind of were with things? Yeah.
We got tired of it and we
Yeah.
sold them, but we put our kids in college with that money. So
Yeah. Yeah. So what I can say is it's just harder. When you have less, it's harder. It's
something ideally when you're first starting out, if you want to accumulate doors, is the 2 to 4 units is really the sweet spot. And the reason for that is you can still get conventional financing on it, which tends to be a little bit more favorable than the commercial loans. Once you get over 4 units, you have to go with commercial financing. Also 2 to 4 units, you could live in 1 unit and rent out the others. So when you're young and you're getting started, like if I was a do-over place in my life and I was just getting started, that would have been my first purchase, would be a 2 to 4 unit property. And I would live in one and rent out the others. And then later down the road, when I want to buy a single family for myself, then I go ahead and rent out that other unit. Because with the multiple units, like Zach said, if you have a cost on one, the other units are kind of absorbing it. So when you've got a tenant move out on one side and you're cleaning the unit and getting it ready to go, you still have somebody paying the other side, which is, it's helpful.
That's kind of what I was getting at. Like if you use the duplex, it's a good analogy. It's like one moves out, but the other's still paying. So the more you have, one moves out and you have a renovation that needs to happen. It's just much easier, but it is still aggravating. I mean, I still get really annoyed about it, but it's just part of the whole gig. Like you just know it's going to happen. So, so to this point, what questions does anybody? Yeah. Wem.
Thank you. What is your conversation like with the homeowners whenever you're buying them on 30 cents on the dollar?
Yep.
Because homeowners know what their neighbors' homes sell for.
Right.
So they have a general idea.
Yep.
So what's that conversation like?
I because I'm licensed and most of you are, there is sort of this fine line where it's definitely like a balancing act, but I think for me, I don't necessarily seek people out. They seek me out, or the agent seeks me out because they have their client that wants to sell and they think it's a good fit for me. So it makes it easier because I'm not actually, a lot of the time, I'm not communicating with the seller. I'm communicating with an intermediary of some sort, whether it's an agent, attorney, lender. So they're giving me the information and then I'm analyzing it and going, okay, that's definitely not worth my time, or it is worth my time. And so there's not that awkward conversation. But if there was, I would just, what do you want for the house? I'm not really sure. Well, I gotta have an idea because, it may not work for me and I don't want to drive over there and look at it, so just give me a rough idea. I'm sure you know what your neighbor's houses sell for. And then, at some point they'll tell me. And then I say, what work does it need? And they'll tell me and I'll say, okay, it sounds like it may work. I'll go look at it. I'll walk through, I'll pick it apart. And the whole time I'm just adding up what I'm going to have in it, what I think it's worth, and tell them an offer. And a lot of times they just tell me to, which is fine, especially in this market. People know that things are hot, so it's getting much more difficult to buy really, really good deals. But I don't know. I'm pretty just clear with people.
We just had this conversation with Jim. So there are things that if you're reaching out to the seller, if you're sending out flyers, mailers, anything like that, or if you're calling them, there are certain things that you have to discuss and disclose. So talk to Jim or Don about that.
Definitely.
I'm not going to tell you everything because I don't remember all of it. I know that it's all in place for our systems that we have. So talk to Jim or Don.
Yeah. If you're using your Keller Williams brand or your realtor designation to solicit purchasing, that's different than what I do. Like I'm a real estate agent, I sell real estate, but I have a completely separate company that's a guy that buys homes. So like I'm basically two people. It would be no different than me having a lawn mowing business, right? Like there's no interaction. It's just two different businesses. So yeah, if you're doing anything like that with your license, you gotta be very careful about that. But
what we're really looking for is people that need us to solve a problem for them. So there may be situations where putting a house on the open market isn't ideal for the person. And so that's really what you're watching out for. So when in conversation with someone, you can be upfront and say, yeah, we could put it on the market and retail. Here's what the retail appraised value is probably going to be. Always be honest with people. We're not trying to steal something from somebody, but you can also say, when you go to list it, here are also all of the costs that are going to be involved. Here's all the hassle that's going to be involved. Here's the repair budget that more than likely the buyers are going to be asking for. There's a number we all kind of know in our heads approximately how much repairs a buyer is going to ask for. There's also the chance of the low appraisal coming in. Or if you want to just sell it to me directly, I'll pay you this, which is a fair price based on what you were going to net anyway, and we can just call it good, So people appreciate honesty and being upfront. That's how I've gotten several of my deals. And one of them was a good family friend. His mom had to go into a nursing home. They needed the house to sell really, really fast. And they didn't want to have to deal with issues. There was some mold in it. There were some things going on with the house, and nothing that I was afraid to take on. But they needed the money for mom's nursing home. So we sat down and did all the numbers and did the retail calculation and minus the agent commissions. And I said, okay, so that's your bottom line number. And I'll give you that for the house if you want to sell it to me directly. And so that's what ended up happening. But just be a problem solver for people and look for the houses that other people don't want to touch. There's a reason when something's not selling or it's going to be a problem. If it's got a tenant, a hoarder in there, the person,
Meth.
yeah. I'm not going to touch the meth house. Sorry.
I'm getting
Call
ready.
Zach.
I'm getting ready to. I just don't know yet what I'm in for. But you know, the things that people run away from. Did you hear what everybody did there? Everybody's like, ooh, right?
Mhm.
All right.
Right.
It's a good example. Call me.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Maybe. We're gonna see. We're gonna see.
I don't know. On the meth, I heard
We're
that
gonna
is
check it out. We're gonna see what.
expensive.
Yeah, I'm gonna see what's required. Yeah. No, there's no meth left in that house. I think they did all they could do there. So thanks for your question. What else? Other questions? Yeah.
So it's our first buy and we need to figure out how much it's gonna cost.
Yeah.
How do you do that? Like I saw you in the house that I
mhm.
show you. How do
Yeah.
you do that?
How do you determine
you-
what
How
it's
do
gonna
you come
cost?
up with a value that you need to
Yeah.
buy the house?
Well, that particular house, so just to give you guys some context, I looked at a house, well, where, maybe by Bass Pro, kind of, wasn't it? Yeah. And so it wasn't in bad shape. It was a little beat up here and there, but just didn't need like a ton of work, but they wanted, just a little more. But I basically just walked around it. I mean, it just didn't need a whole lot, like paint, trim, just some, you know, I I just know how much things cost at this point. But initially, I would use my contractors more. Like they would come with me, hey, TJ, what's a vanity cost? Like, how much is it going to be for you to put that in there and change this? And, but you do enough, you do enough of them. But I'm kind of like, I'm pretty loose with it. It's like, oh, the roof, kind of looks weird. So I'll just add that on and I've paid for roofs. So it's like $7,000 is going to cover it probably. The windows, they're in terrible shape. It's like, okay, $300 a window, 1, 2, 3, so over time you get it. But if you don't understand it, just get somebody that does, like a contractor, somebody that you trust, or make notes. And then, after the fact, get with your contractor, go on Lowe's website, check out what things cost, find out what the contractor would charge you for labor because you have your list. But over time it's like anything else, you just kind of know, and I'm not right all the time. Like, matter of fact, that one, I think I was actually thinking I could do it for like 30, but I don't think I factored in windows, and then there was something else, but it didn't really matter because I knew I was buying it right. So it was like, well, it doesn't matter if it's 30 or 40, I'm in good shape. So it depends. If you're paying very close to retail, you better have your numbers right because it's going to affect things. But if you're buying it way below, you can kind of be loose with it because you have the room. So 2 properties, probably 5 to 10 a week. And then I may get, no, I would say 5 or 6 a week. And then I might get 1 or 2 a month.
And don't get emotionally invested in a property. So if the numbers don't make sense,
What?
move on.
So I've fallen down the rabbit hole of finding vacant, abandoned properties. How do you handle that? Because man, it is a course to get to ownership and anyone that's wanting to sell it.
Yeah, it is.
I mean, you send letters.
Yeah, I don't really do it. I did in the beginning, and that's what I would do. I would find the property, because the grass is tall or it looks like crap or whatever it is. But I would look on the tax records. What's the mailing address? Is it local? If it's local, I would go to the house, go to the mailing address and see if I can contact the owner. You can mail, you can find them on Facebook. See if you can just find their name and message them. I've done that and it worked. The Facebook thing. you can Google their name from the tax records and see what comes up. Cause sometimes you'll see like, you know, it was somebody that passed away, and then you'll see who their heirs are. And then you can find them on Facebook or find, you know, so you kind of become this investigator, but, you can also talk to the neighbors. I don't know if I just said that, but because a lot of times the neighbors knew them, and then they still have their number or whatever. So, that's what I would do if I did it. Uh-huh. Is it your personal house or yeah?
So we found our personal home that was off market, and he had passed away. So I Googled him, found his obituary, found the list of heirs, went through that, went to CaseNet, found his name, found the probate that was opened up, saw that his heirs had went to court because they were trying to get into a lockbox. And then I found like a bank box, like they were trying to get the judge to approve that. So I found that the heirs were listed. They had addresses. So I sent her a card that said, "Hey, I'm sorry for your loss, but we're really interested in your home. You know, can we come look at it? Yeah. Can we come and look at it?" And she called me about a week later and was like, "Yeah, you want to come look at it?" And I was like, "Yeah, we got it." And then she dropped the price. She dropped the price 6% because I was a realtor and she didn't have to hire one. So
If you can find yourself an off-market deal, that's going to give you the time you need to be able to analyze the property and
Yeah, it is a
figure
little
out your
psycho.
numbers. If it's hit the MLS and you don't know your numbers, you're already too late.
Yeah, you're right. Does that answer your question? I mean, that's just some of the ways that you can do. You just got to get really creative and kind of psycho. No, I'm kidding. She's got it. What'd you say? Sorry. Yeah. 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 Or a foreclosure with Wells Fargo. Good luck. You're not going to get in touch with anybody. But if it's a foreclosure and you know it, it's like, well, you could look on the MLS and see what agents are listing foreclosures. Like you can search that and see, oh, they list foreclosures. So I'm going to call them and tell them that I want to buy that property, so that when they get the order for it, they're going to double side it by calling you first so you can buy it. So it's like you really are like a little investigator, you know, which is, it's kind of fun sometimes, I think. And it's very rewarding when it works, you know. What other questions? Anybody else have questions?
If you have questions on like specific hard costs on things, Josh and I were visiting about that. I mean, they do a lot of the rehab. So maybe tell them what you were telling me earlier.
Yeah, if you guys want to come sit down, talk, we've worked with our contractor a lot on what stuff costs. We've got information that we can, you know, I'm willing to help share if people are getting down in the weeds and trying to figure something out. I know we sat down with Daniel and really broke down that deal with him, just to make sure it was a good deal, like he had thought it was. So if you guys approach that deal and you guys have the day to decide on it, holler at me. I'm not afraid to talk to anybody and help you guys out. I'd love to. It's what we do in our office basically at this point. So feel free anytime. We're upstairs somewhere.
I posted a question in the chat box on Zoom.
Own a historic building in Ash Grove that has commercial space on the main level and apartment upstairs. Commercial space needs a total reno. The apartment needs a light reno. Is there a financing option that would fit my needs?
Absolutely. We do stuff like that all the time. That would just be the same case, like I said earlier. And I actually wanted to answer, Doug, your question earlier about at the end of you know, a renovation deal, you can get an appraisal, get a higher value, take your cash out. I want to kind of tie that into this. Because what we would do with that is we would have them put, you know, 20% down on what we call the total project costs, like I'd mentioned earlier. But we actually order appraisals as complete. So what we can do is order an as complete appraisal, so you know what the value will be at the end of your, you know, your renovation deal. So you don't have to, you know, pay for 2 appraisals, which some banks may make you do. You can just pay for the one. So yeah, we could do financing on something like that, where you know, 20% of project cost.
So you're not putting 20% down on the projected after repair value.
No.
It's based off hard money.
Yep. Yep. So it's based on your costs.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah,
So,
which is nice.
Yeah.
Saves
Yeah.
saves some money. So
yeah, I think so. Especially if you buy right, like you said. I mean, you're
Right.
you're buying a lower purchase price. Then you end up having quite a bit of equity.
Right.
You know, is the goal, obviously. So.
She needs to get a contractor,
Mhm.
tell her what her costs are gonna be.
Yeah.
For the rehab.
Yeah.
And then approach the lender and say, here are my costs, I've done my research. Here's what this is gonna cost me to purchase,
Yeah.
here's what it's gonna cost me to rehab. Now let's talk financing.
Yeah. And I would say on your budget, your renovation budget, I have gotten those in all shapes and sizes. I've gotten them literally written down on a napkin, and that's my renovation budget right there. Or it's very detailed from a contractor. We get those in all sorts and sizes, so that you don't have to always have, Zach may email and say, hey, it's going to be $20,000 roof, $10,000 flooring, $5,000 miscellaneous. Now we know Zach's done that a million times before, so we know that he probably knows, but I just wanted to point that out, that your renovation budget doesn't have to be, exact to a T on everything. So
But in something like this,
Mhm.
it's a historic building.
Yeah.
Can I just say, if you do not know what you're doing with renovations and you're dealing with something that's historic, you absolutely need a good contractor to be out there with you to figure out your numbers, because there's so many cans of worms that can be behind those walls. The electrical, the plumbing, the pipes could all need to be redone. The pipe from the building to the main could be rotted through, and like, yeah. So do your due diligence on a older property for
Yeah.
sure.
And I will say we factor that in as well. So like I said, everything's project specific. So if you say, I've got this historic building and my renovation budget is going to be $20,000, we're going to be like, we don't think so. We think it's going to be more like 120, and we don't know that the equity is there. That does happen from time to time.
did you look at my deal?
Yeah, we did. Yeah.
So these guys, they actually are sort of a second line of defense also, because I went under contract on something with Doug in Battlefield. And I don't know if you were looking at it, because I was on vacation.
Me and Brett drove out there.
Yeah. And I talked to Brett, and he's like, are you sure on this deal? And it was like I don't remember how much it was, but it was like millions.
Yeah.
And they sort of questioned my numbers a little bit. And so I went back and looked, and I forgot something. I forgot an expense that was a reoccurring expense and a slightly big expense. And between that and then the rent's not really matching up like we thought, I didn't buy the deal. And ultimately I wouldn't have regardless, but it was nice to know that, they could have easily not said something and pushed it through, but they're kind of looking out for themselves, but it's also me. So it's nice to have a lender that's going to look into those things, because like I said, it's another defense, line of defense for you. So on that historical building, keep in mind, everything is sort of pliable with the financing, because like what we don't know is the building paid off? Like maybe they don't even owe money on it, in which case the financing would look totally different. So as far as financing, it's going to be different on every deal, depending on who you are, how many deals you've done, how much, what's your net worth, right? Have you done 100 deals? So just keep that in mind.
And another thing, usually the bank's always going to have questions for you on your project. As Zach's fielded a lot of questions in the past, but it's not that we don't, trust you, or some people get offended when we ask, like, do you really think you can get it done for that? And, sometimes people get frustrated. It's not us being, not trusting you or believing you. We just have to make sure the project's safe and sound. And we want that for you too. Like Zach said, I mean, we don't want you to get into a deal that, you lose 20 grand on. Nobody wants that. So a lot of the times the bank will reach back out with questions, or if they have concerns. It's not, you don't have to take it, personally or negatively. It's just, we want to make sure the deal's a good deal for you too.
And some of you might not feel comfortable doing a flip or doing a rehab for your first deal. There's definitely going to be more equity and more skin in the game if you're comfortable doing some renovations. That's how you're going to build your portfolio. But in the beginning, maybe you just want to buy something that's already rent ready. So when you're running your numbers on that one, principal, interest, taxes, and insurance, you're going to factor in. Management costs, factor 10%, even if you're not hiring a manager, and then build a little reserve in there, contingency fund for repairs. Maybe it's $100 a month that you're going to set aside for things that come up. And then if the numbers still make sense, then for you, it's a good deal.
And sorry, one other thing. I don't want to keep interrupting you. And part of having a good relationship with a bank too is that, so if you see a deal and you're unsure about it, you can always just email it to a lender. And if you have a good lender, they'll respond and say what they think of a deal. If you say, hey, I want to buy this house for 50, put 20 into it, and I think I can get this in rent for it a month. What do you think? Would you do this for me? And we can usually eyeball it and tell you in about 5 minutes if we would do it.
A good rule of thumb on that is, most people have heard of it. It's like the 1% rule, right? So you just take what you're paying for the property. In this case, 45 plus 40. So that's what I have in it total. That's 85,000. So 1% of that's $850 a month. So if I think I can rent it for 850 or more, by the time you shake everything out, which is your payment to the bank, the taxes and insurance, if you hit the 1% rule, you know it's probably going to work. So that's sort of a quick and easy way of like, just take your all-in costs. So if you think you can buy it for 70 and you got to put 30, you're going to have 100 in it. You need to like be able to rent that for a minimum of 1,000 or more to create a delta that you can put in your pocket every month. So, you know, if it's a $150,000 house and you think you can rent it for 1,100, there's not going to be any money left for you at the end of the month. So just use that as a quick way of analyzing.
Maybe it's a property that's already rented, duplexes. For instance, I'm going to talk about Blake because he's not here. But he just bought some really nice duplexes. They're currently rented below market rent. And he's inheriting the tenants that come along with that property. But he sees the upside. So is he willing to go for no cash flow right now and then know that, okay, when this tenant moves out, I'm going to make X repairs to this unit. And now I can turn around and instead of $550 a month, I can rent that unit for $950 a month. And I can over time build the equity in that property. And now once all of them have moved out and he's got them all turned over, they're going to make incredible money for him. But he was willing to take it on at the moment with just barely a break even on his numbers because it makes sense for down the road and what you plan to do with it. So you have to think like every time you're acquiring a property, think what your short-term game might be, have more than one exit strategy. If I flip this and I go to sell it, what could I sell it for? If I decide to hold it, what are my holding costs going to be? If you have more than one exit strategy and all the numbers line up, then it's probably a great deal.
I agree. Any questions?
I just had one thing. As you're chasing these deals, one of the first questions to ask is if they do have a loan on it. Sometimes their loan is higher than what it's worth and they couldn't sell it if they wanted to. And you can spend days working on deals that all of a sudden there's no chance of it ever happening.
Yeah, that's why you ask up front, what do you want for it? If they won't tell you, get it out of them because you're just going to save a lot of time. I mean, if they owe 80 and they tell you they need 70, it's like pretty easy to like, where are you getting the 10 grand?
Well,
you know, or do they realize it?
I just chased a lake house the other day and I went down there and offered him 175,000 for it. And he's like, yeah, you're probably right. That's what it's worth. But I just refinanced it last year for 245.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, how? But you know, there's just nothing that could be done.
Yeah.
So
Have a good relationship with your title company as well and run a preliminary title report. When you're starting to get serious about a property, and especially if it's an off-market deal, your title company can run the preliminary title and tell you what liens are on that property. So they may know about their mortgage that's on the property, but they may not know about their unpaid federal tax liens or a contractor lien that got placed on the property. So you need to know all of the liens that are on the property when you're analyzing the deal.
something Amy just said that made me think. Analyze every deal that you're analyzing with 2 strategies: the hold, and then if it doesn't work for that, all of a sudden something happens, you have an exit plan to sell it. Or if you're planning on selling, you're planning on flipping it. If all of a sudden that's not working, is it still a deal at a hold? So create a little bit of cushion for you on both of those to make sure that it is a good deal. Don't get stuck losing money. We just had one that appraisal came short on, we had an ARV of, I think, 110 on it. Appraisal came in at 87. And so they couldn't pull their cash out. So they went to sell it, and it sold at 110 and appraised just fine on a sale contract at 110. So exit strategy sucked. They didn't want to do that. They wanted to hold it. They wanted the cash flow, but they made 15 grand, worst case scenario. Oh, darn.
Yeah, like know what you're doing. Trust yourself, do your research. I had the same problem with an apartment building in Willard. They told me it was worth about 200,000 less than what I knew it was worth, and I ended up selling it for what I knew it was worth. So if I'd listened to other people all the time, just get multiple opinions. Oh yeah, thanks, Doug. Can we get an update on your mobile home park?
Well, we closed on a mobile home park last month. We bought it for $205. There are 9 units and a 3-bedroom, 2-bath house on the property, and it's been a smashing success. Actually, we had so much interest that we had to go to Arkansas to get a camper to move up there so we could get another tenant on the property. And there was an additional unit on the house that was being used for storage that my husband has been renovating to make it an additional rental. Well, so that would be, we've got 1 mobile home that is being renovated. So we've got 8 units that are full. We have a trailer. We've got the 3-bedroom, 2-bath with an additional apartment on the side of that. And we just had it appraised. So we used our HELOC to buy it, our home equity line of credit off. Yes. So it was what Amy was saying. So we used the HELOC to make a cash purchase on the mobile home park. And then we just had it appraised, and we knew it would not appraise for what we bought it for because trailers have no value, but it came in at 98. So we can get 80% of that 98 from the bank. So then we can pay our HELOC back, which has a higher interest rate on it. So, you know, yeah, so it's kind of going all over the place. It's not fixed, but so yeah, it's gone really well. Right now we're clearing $3,300 a month on rent, so we're at about 1.5%. About 3,300. And then so you have. Unfortunately, my husband is handy, so we don't have a management company or anything right now. So that's him. He is the manager. Sure. But so you're making like $3,000. That's what we're clearing. So how much money? Yeah, we paid $3,000 for the trailer, and we've got it rented for $250 a month. Okay. So we did. It is. And when you mentioned meth, we did get some heroin with the trailer, so that was fun. I probably could have sold that for something, but I don't know. I don't know. I don't know actually what it was, but there's some paraphernalia in there. We just threw it away. So, but yeah, so he's looking at another mobile unit in, we live in Ozark. So there's a trailer that's for sale there that he's kind of got his eye on. So yeah, so. 3,000. Yeah. Anybody have a mobile home? They want to, unload, let me know. And I'm your gal. So yeah. Yeah.
You don't have much money in the whole deal now. So your ROI, which we don't even talk about, is really good. Can't do the math. Yeah. What is it? 30? I thought it was better than that. 100 well, yeah, but anyway. Okay.
Jordan has a point.
We're wrapping up. I can feel it. Everybody's ready. It's okay. We're going to go.
I just want to say one more thing about Misty's scenario. So you said you had 8 rental properties, right? And you had them how long? 2014. So you've had them all a while. So they're probably all worth more than when you bought them, and you have a lot of equity there. So you were talking about the HELOC. Another option you can look at doing is, we don't have to get too in the weeds, but if you have like individual notes on every property, what you can do is you can get one loan, consolidate maybe 5 of your 7. You can get You can refinance that into one loan, own 2 properties free and clear, and get a line of credit against 2 properties. That way it's not tied into your, sometimes people don't want to get stuff under their personal name. And then, you
How
can
do
buy.
how do you do
buy
it?
real
You
estate
can
that
tell
way.
us what you want to tell us. You don't have to
Yeah.
tell us.
I'm fine. We currently have 6 in a commercial loan with O'Bannon.
Okay.
So,
Cool.
but then one's free and clear.
Yeah.
And then, yeah.
So what you can do is you can always get a line of credit against that free and
So,
clear
I mean,
house.
you're on my list already to call. So
Yeah. Oh,
good thing you're
cool.
here today.
Well, I just wanted everyone to know that's a great way to.
I only came to
to
the
move
office
fast.
because you're here.
Yeah.
They know I'm not ever here.
Oh,
No.
easy.
I mean, Zach, I love you.
Getting
too,
awkward.
but-
It's getting
I'm
awkward.
out of here.
Okay, before you guys go, you have to come up here and grab Jordan's contact information if you want to add him to your list of potential lenders to visit with.
Zach, this is the last question for you. What are you primarily doing now whenever you invest? Do you buy cash, fix it up, and then get your money out,
Mhm.
and then just kind of repeat?
I don't really like stick to one or the other. It's like, when they changed the tax code to where you could use your you could accelerate your depreciation into like the current year. So I had all these properties that with depreciation that I could like bring into like last year. And so I kind of flipped or wholesaled way more than I would normally do because I was able to put the cash in my pocket, take the depreciation to offset the income taxes on it. So it wasn't tax free, but it was like kind of much lower tax on the capital gains. So, but now that that's probably going to go away, I'm sort of shifting now to, I'm still going to wholesale and flip some stuff to continue to, save cash. But I'm kind of going back into the rentals and just trying to do burrs, which I pay, I pay cash. I do have a credit line with them, maybe one or two, maybe, I don't know. But I don't use them as much just because I've saved up enough money where I just use my own money. It saves me on appraisals and just the little costs that everybody wants to charge. But there are points where I like sort of feel uncomfortable with how much of my own money I have out. And so if I need to, I'll just go use my line of credit. And, but I'm kind of going towards the burr strategy so that at the end of the day, like that's what I did on that one. I used my own cash for the whole deal, but then the end result, once it was finished and rented, was they gave me my $85,000 back, and then I just go do it over and over and over. And so the 335 or whatever, 332 that I made that based on my effort of being able to find the deal, renovate it, rent it. So my 332.50, I have no money in that deal anymore. So I have equity and I have cash flow. So my ROI or my return on investment is like whatever it's infinite because I don't have any money in it. And that's what we were talking about on the trailer park is she recouped a lot of her money. She still had some money in it. I can't remember how much, but when you look at like what she's making every month and how much of their own money they have in the deal, the return on investment is like through the roof. So that's another angle that you need to kind of pay attention to. If you're going to spend $100,000 of your own money to make, $500 a month, that's not good, but anyway, I got on a tangent, but did that answer all your questions? Yeah. No, I don't really have any numbers in mind. I just like doing it. And so, I do have like a cash flow number, that I would like to get to on a monthly basis. But I don't know. I just like doing it, and then I get paid for it. It's like, great, this is really cool, And so, yeah, I wonder what my goal is though. I kind of think to myself, maybe I should have a goal. Like, what am I doing here? I just keep doing the same thing, but it's fun and I enjoy it and it's working. So yeah, I've listened to it twice. Okay. So anyway, yeah.
Any other questions? I just everybody's looking kind of antsy. So
It is
Well-
hot. Was our air not work down? We're in a basement. I thought it was cold in
there's no
basements.
there's no airflow. Yeah.
Oh,
So
okay. That
yeah,
explains it.
thank you guys for coming, and we hope that this added some value. If you have individual questions on your deals, again, we're all available to visit with you about
Yeah,
them.
we're trying to figure our way out through this. We are not really instructors. you know, so we're just trying
At
to like
all.
figure out how to do this and be, you know, give you guys value.
Don't
Yeah.
forget the cards.
Yep. Thank you
Yep.
guys. Thanks for interacting. Good to see everyone.